What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another Animous tutorial. Today we're going to be going through panel lining. Today we're going to be going through a little bit of what materials I would use to panel line, as well as what kind of tones I use depending on the colors or depending on the type of plastic that we're working on. Okay, so hope you guys enjoy the video, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to need for this is going to be your tools, right? So we're going to go through Gundam markers. I have a few of them here. Well, that one decided to run away there. I have a few Gundam markers here, all different colors. I have gray, black, brown. I also have the brush style panel line markers. I have them in gray and black. So another tool that I'm going to be demonstrating in this video is going to be this display pen. So these plume pens are usually used for calligraphy. However, Display went ahead and re-engineered them for panel lining. And I do have to say, I like the results. It's a lot cleaner, and you know, it's not a lot of waste of material or your panel line if you're using a Tamiya accent liner or Mr. Hobby liner or weather maker or washer or whatever you want to call it, right? So this tool is very neat. We're also going to be using Tamiya accent liners for this. I have them here. I have them in black, I have them in gray, and I have it in brown. Now for panel lining, there are other tools out there that you can use. I know that I don't have one available here, but I know that Gundam Marker makes a pour type marker, as well as other markers that are used for weathering that you can also use for panel lining. Now, well, Animus, can I use something else that, you know, if I don't have my Gundam markers available or accent liner available, or just, you know, it's not within my budget? Yes, of course. You know, some people are using fine tip Sharpies, as well as some pens from Prismacolor. Like if you find like drawing pens from Prismacolor that are like fine tip, you can use those as well. And as a matter of fact, I can tell you for a fact that they are super similar to this fine tip right here. So, and that's what's most important. You want to make sure that you get all the details that you can without making a mess. Now, with that being said, the difference between using a Gundam marker to using a accent liner is or weathering, or Mr. Hobby weathering, is the cleanup. Now the cleanup is a lot messier when it comes to the accent liner, because you have to make sure that you use some specific materials to clean it. Depending on the plastic or what you're using, it depends, right? You might have to use an eraser, you might have to use Q-tip. I use lighter fluid to do so. When you use a pencil or use a panel liner or marker or Gundam marker, you can actually wipe the marker with your finger, so you don't really have to use any type of heavy cleanup when using your Gundam marker. Some people like to use rubbing alcohol. You can, however, it'll make the plastic brittle depending on what kit you're building, especially if it's an older kit. The plastics are very brittle, right? So let's try to avoid that today. To clean up for the accent liner, you will need some Q-tips. Now, swabs or Q-tips, whatever you want to call them. So I've had people ask me before, what happens when you're using these against the hobby grade? So the difference between this and the hobby grades, I've noticed that with these, you throw out a lot more. Like for example, the content in these is super packed in. So, and these are hobby grade ones. These are Mr. Hobby. So you can cover a lot more space. However, because it holds the dirt or the extra liner or anything in there, when you pass it on a part, you might end up actually staining the part too. And that will happen with the other ones as well, but you have more chances of doing that with these, right? Or at least that has been my experience with them. So what happens if you have a line that's very persistent and it dried and doesn't want to go out? An eraser. I've used this a couple of times. I actually found this in a forum on the internet, and it's been working wonders. Now we're going to talk about the material and the plastics, and how does the panel line affect the detail and how the details show on the plastics, right? So my biggest concern here today is going to be that I haven't top coated this kit. So, and I understand for all of you want to say, well, you should never use accent liner on bare plastic. Well, I guess it will depend, because I have done a few kits where I just applied directly the accent liner to the plastic, and then I top coated the kit immediately and I never had any issues or cracks or anything like that. Now, I do have to say that you can experience cracking or making the plastic brittle, or it'll find itself into a crack and then just finish the job right there, right? So this is very finicky to work with. So um, people always recommend to top coat your kits before panel lining. Why? Because it helps the liquid or whatever, you know, fluid be a little bit more fluid. Or if you're trying to if you paint the kit, of course you want to use an accent liner, because you don't want to really use a Gundam marker on your freshly painted kit, right? You know, for many reasons. So, but today we're just going to go ahead and apply it to one of these plastics. Now, the first example I'm going to use is going to be the gray panel liner. So, gray panel liners are really good for white parts. Now, the reason why I say this is because uh, when you use a darker or black panel liner on a white part, you know, it really makes it pop. Of course, the contrast is going to be a lot more, um, and the details are just going to be noticeable a lot more than if you use a gray one. However, I like using a gray panel liner to do on the white parts, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get started with this side here. So with the marker, it doesn't matter if you're a little sloppy when you're running the lines, because you'll be able to wipe off the excess that gets in between them, right? So, and I will do one side in gray and one side in black, so you were able to see the difference between the two. And now, as for how to clean it, just wipe the excess off. Now, the only thing that I can say about wiping the excess off is that sometimes you will wipe it straight off the plastic, right? And that's how it looks like with the gray. Now, on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and use the black panel liner. And there it is. You can actually see the difference between both sides. One side is a lot more defined than the other one. So for dark parts, I definitely use the black liner depending on what parts I am going to be panel lining. So it would just depend. Like I said, it's all preference. This is just my way of doing it. Everyone is going to have different ways of doing it. So you should do whatever feels most comfortable to you, or whatever you want to do. Or if you feel that, you know, you just want it all black, then that's fine as well. You know, they don't have an issue. There's no issue. There's no limit to what you can do with these kids, right? So, and that's the great thing about gunpla, right? So there's no reason why you should limit yourself. So looking at this blue part right here, so there's different ways that you could do this. Now, there are some people that like to use gray or accent liner gray for darker parts, just to make the panel line pop more, right? And that is completely great. It's a great idea and it works perfectly. Cleanup is a little messy due to the fact that you have to make sure that you clean it correctly. Otherwise, it just smudges against the color and it's just not going to look great. Myself, I like to use black accent liner when it comes to these parts, right? So, and like I've mentioned in other previous videos, this is a tutorial kit, so it's not a problem if the kit cracks or messes up. It's all to learn, all for everybody to learn. I'm trying to teach you. However, if you want to do it the right way is you use a gloss coat or semi-gloss on the plastic first. Wait till it's dry. Once it's dry, apply the panel line, top coat, whatever finish you want. When using the accent liner, the most important thing is that you don't want it to pool. What does that mean? You don't want to put a line somewhere and just let it pool and sit there till it gets dry, because that'll make the plastic brittle. So you want to make sure that when you're using this, you are very careful and try to keep it as clean as possible. And this is an example of what I said, not to let it pool. When you have excess like that, it'll create all sorts of issues. It might make the plastic brittle, it might crack it. It might eat through it. Aside from the fact that cleaning it is not fun. So you want to make sure that you maintain it to where you can actually manage the cleanup without any issues. The end result when you start your panel lining with the accent lining is going to look a little bit like this, maybe a little bit less considering that I was just, putting it on there just to show everyone, right? So for these pieces, I usually like to use the gray. Gray is usually my go-to. So you want to make sure that you shake it very well. Now, why am I shaking this bottle? All the pigments, if these have been sitting for a while, it'll go to the bottom of the bottle, right? Now, where do I go from there? So make sure to open the bottle, clean the brush a little bit. You don't want to pull it in there, and then just throw your panel line. Now I love using gray on white, just because it gives it that subtlety for shading that you want. So now we're gonna go ahead and try to do a little cleanup. This one seems to be dry enough already, so we can go ahead and try cleaning it out. When doing cleanup, there's a few things that you can do. You can actually, like I said, you can use an eraser, or you can use swabs and lighter fluid. A lot of people say, well, you can just get enamel thinner, or you can get, you could use a acrylic thinner, or you can use, just whatever lacquer thinner, whatever you want to use it, right? There's a reason why most modelers we use lighter fluid. The reason why we use lighter fluid is because we want to make sure that, and this is a lot more gentle on the plastic than thinners. Thinners are very strong on the plastics, and then can definitely make them brittle. Aside from the fact that if you're cleaning it up and it seeps through a little bit, it might actually crack your plastic while you're cleaning up, and you don't want that. Now let's go ahead and start with the cleanup. So for this, I'm going to be using regular swabs. Now, I don't know if anybody has noticed from previous videos, but I always have a little sheet of shop towel there. And the main reason is because you want to make sure you get excess off, right? So I use the shop towel for almost anything. So you get a little bit of excess off, and then you start your cleanup. When you're cleaning up these type of panel lines, you want to make sure you always go into one direction, because if you try to swab it everywhere, it might make a bigger mess. So you don't want that. So you always try to gently glide it. This is how it would look. So that's using the black panel line accent liner from Tamiya. Now, Animous, what happens when I have stickers? Can I panel line the stickers or use anything of the sorts? Unfortunately, I have encountered cases where whenever you are giving or doing panel lining on stickers themselves, it'll actually disintegrate the sticker, especially if it's a metallic one. Whenever you have to clean it off or clean the excess off, it'll just wipe it off itself with everything else. So whenever it comes to many details like these, like I'm gonna show you right now, I like using this. Now, some of you might have been waiting for this for a while in the video. Now, this one right here, I use it in the easiest way possible. So, what do I do with this cap? Honestly, I just set it to the side. I just try to drain as much as I can. Set it to the side like this, and then just let it dry. Usually, I clean it with some thinner anyway, to make sure it's not all completely dry when I put it back in the bottle. For this, you just dip. Get the excess off. If you've used a calligraphy pen before, then this is going to be very familiar to you. Look at that. Clean and efficient. This was all using that pen. As you can see, is a lot less cleanup than just when you're using the accent liner brush, which is great. And that is it for today's tutorial. If you have any questions, please make sure to put them in the comments. I'm very active when it comes to the comment section. I'll reply. If you want whatever you'd like to see in the channel in the future, maybe other tutorials, please make sure to let me know in the comments so we can go ahead and go from there. Maybe expand. We're trying to expand this hobby as much as we can for other people out there around the world that might try to learn something. So I know there are some people out there that look at old tutorials and they just don't feel confident enough. Let me tell you right now that most techniques haven't changed. They've just evolved a little bit from what they used to be. Especially when these pens came out. This was definitely a game changer. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like my content, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for future content and future videos, and I will see you all next time.